Deputy.
I want to respond to the thrust of Minister Varadkar's speech yesterday and that of many other deputies from the government, but also unfortunately echoed by Fianna Fáil and shamefully by Sinn Féin. Obviously what was primarily picked up by the media of what Minister Varadkar said was the admission of the blatantly obvious that the Eighth Amendment is too restrictive and has no respect for women's long-term health. But the essence of his speech, and that of many other parties in this chamber, is his statement that the debate on abortion has been dominated by the extremes on both sides, who have in turn crowded out the middle ground. Conveniently, he places himself and his party in this reasonable middle ground, together with a mythical conservative Middle Ireland. And what it is an attempt to discredit the pro-choice movement by saying we're the equivalent, we're the same as the pro-life reactionaries, the anti-choice people who would be opposed to every single social progress possible and proposed at any stage in this country, that we're both to these different extremes. This bill is not an extreme bill. Let's be clear about it. It's saying that in the Constitution we shouldn't have a feature that places the lives of women at the same level as the lives of fetus. Those who oppose that, those who defend with whatever justification that provision, they are the extremists. In almost any other country in Europe, they would be seen as far-out extremists. But not just in any other country in Europe. The reality is that things have changed in this country. In this country, they're extremists. There's a clear majority in a Sunday Independent poll in September. Yes, 56% to the question of holding a referendum on repeal of the Eighth Amendment. No, 19%, don't know, 25%. But alongside that, a massive majority in favour of abortion, or the right of abortion for women in a whole number of different circumstances, all of which would require the appeal of the Eighth Amendment. So all of the talk about this Middle Ireland that can't be trusted to have a responsible debate on abortion should be recognised for what it is. It's a fig leaf by the Conservative forces in this House who don't want to legislate, who don't want to have a referendum, who don't want to have their position exposed in front of the majority. The people in this country are well able and well ready for a referendum on this question. I think it's clear which way that they would go. I also want to reject the call which goes alongside it for a consensus between the two extremes. That's what the people on the other House said is needed. We need to come to some sort of consensus. I have no interest, I have to say, in coming to consensus with the Conservative forces in this House on women's reproductive rights. I have an interest in women coming to a consensus with themselves about what choice they make. Fully, the right to choose to have an abortion if that's what they choose, but all aspects of reproductive justice, reproductive rights, the right to have access to decent childcare, the right to have access to decent health care. That's the point, is that's where the consensus, that's where the discussion should take place, rather than amongst a bunch of conservative old men in a parliament. The Minister has said that it is not his right to impose his views onto others, and it was echoed by others in Fine Gael in this chamber. But that's precisely what he's doing. It's precisely what he's doing by refusing, as Minister of Health, to allow us to have a referendum to repeal the Eighth Amendment, is that the status quo continues to exist. And the Minister now, he recognises that the Eighth Amendment is too restrictive. But did he feel like that when 1 year ago he voted to criminalise women who have abortions and those who help them to do so? Did he feel like that when he voted to exclude fatal fetal abnormalities from the abortion legislation? And the question is now, is that if he feels that women's health is endangered by the Eighth Amendment, he's the Minister for Health. What's he going to do about it? And the excuse that he has no mandate and the government has no mandate to have a referendum on this issue is completely empty. I mean, they have no mandate to bring in water charges, that doesn't stop them. They have no mandate to attack child benefit, that doesn't stop them. They have no mandate for many of the things that they do, but that doesn't stop them. They have a mandate to go to people on this question, to allow people themselves to decide. And finally, I want to tackle his criticism of the slogan that emerged at the time of the tragic death of Savita Halappanavar, whereby he says we can never say never again and really mean it. We have to face up to that reality, and he talks about the reality of the fact that you cannot eliminate all human tragedy from human pregnancy. Of course that's the case. That's not what the slogan means, is that there'll never again be tragedy in human pregnancy. But we can say never again to lots of things. We can say never again to women dying as a result of being legally denied access to abortion. We can say never again to women who have been raped, who are suicidal, being refused the right to travel to access an abortion and being forced to give birth. We can say never again to the incredible case that is emerging at the moment, whereby a clinically dead pregnant woman is being kept alive by a hospital against the wishes of her parents because of what's in the Constitution and because of the absence of the ability to repeal that. The government may not, and perhaps the Minister doesn't think we can say never again to that, but at the very least this government should allow people across this country to decide whether they want to say never again with the referendum that could be held in the spring.
Thank you, Deputy.